The question of what Jesus really looked like fascinates many of us. Most of the images we see are influenced by movies and artworks, but these are just interpretations of someone who lived more than 2,000 years ago. However, there are some sources that can give us a clear idea of his appearance. In the Bible and later descriptions made by scientists, we get a clear picture of our beloved Father. Recently, an important discovery has been made: a letter from the Roman official Aurelius Linus. This letter, which has surprised many people, provides a detailed description of Jesus. Linus was an eyewitness who knew Jesus personally and sent reports to Caesar in Rome. Based on his direct experience, his description can provide valuable information about Jesus' appearance. Therefore, it may be important to see what Linus said about Jesus. Descriptions of Jesus' physical appearance. For centuries, the most common image of Jesus Christ in Western cultures has been a bearded, fair-skinned man with long, wavy, light brown or blonde hair and blue eyes. However, the Bible does not describe Jesus' physical appearance, and historical evidence suggests he likely looked very different from this popular image. Early church fathers, like Justin Martyr and Origen, referred to Isaiah 53 to suggest that Jesus' appearance was quite ordinary. He has no form, nor glory, nor beauty. When we beheld him, but his appearance was without honor and inferior to that of the sons of men. On the other hand, Origen and others pointed to Psalm 45:2, which describes God as the most handsome of men, implying a more attractive image of Jesus. It's possible that people's perception of Jesus varied based on their spiritual connection to him. St. Augustine believed that everyone imagines Jesus differently. He wrote, "The physical face of the Lord is pictured with infinite variety by countless imaginations. However, no matter what he looked like, he had only one true face." What's important for our faith in Jesus Christ is not how we picture him, but that we think of him as a man. Similarly, the 4th century Bishop Cell of Jerusalem noted that Jesus appears in different forms to meet people's needs. For example, to those who need joy, he might be seen as a vine. To those seeking entry, he is a door. To those praying, he becomes a high priest. And to those burdened by sin, he appears as a sacrificial sheep. Despite these various forms, Jesus remains unchanged in his true nature, always maintaining his dignity as a compassionate healer and teacher, adapting to our needs. Interestingly, some of the earliest images of Jesus show him as a youthful figure, similar to the Greek god Apollo. However, after the Roman Emperor Constantine endorsed Christianity as an official religion in the 4th century, depictions of Jesus changed significantly, with most images showing him as a bearded man. This shift might be linked to the newfound safety in displaying sacred relics, like the Mandelion, which many scholars believe is now known as the Shroud of Turin or Veronica's Veil. These relics were thought to bear miraculous images of Jesus that were not made by human hands. The only physical description of Jesus. The only physical description of Jesus that we have comes from a copy of a letter written by the Roman consul Linus to Emperor Tiberius. This copy was discovered in a monastery, along with other ancient documents, and is said to be from the 12th year of Emperor Tiberius's reign. Historical records confirm that a Roman consul named Linus was present in Judea during Jesus' trial and crucifixion, and his influential family is mentioned by the Jewish historian Josephus in his work, Antiquities of the Jews. However, some scholars question the authenticity of this letter. In Linus's letter, which was an official report to Emperor Tiberius, Jesus is described with vivid details. According to the letter, Jesus had a noble and lively face with fair, slightly wavy hair, black, strongly curved eyebrows, and intense, penetrating blue eyes. His nose was rather long, and his beard was almost blonde, and not very long. His hair was quite long and had never been cut. Jesus' neck was slightly inclined, giving him a gentle and humble appearance rather than one of bitterness or arrogance. His tanned face was the color of ripe corn, well proportioned, and exuded gravity, wisdom, sweetness, and goodness, completely free of any sign of anger. Combining Linus's letter with insights from the Shroud of Turin gives us a more complete picture of Jesus' physical appearance. According to Linus's letter, Jesus had a noble and lively face with fair, slightly wavy hair, black, strongly curved eyebrows, intense blue eyes, a long nose, and a beard that was almost blonde. His hair was long and uncut, and his neck was inclined, giving him a gentle, humble appearance. His tanned face, resembling ripe corn, conveyed gravity, wisdom, sweetness, and goodness. Adding to this, Professor Giovanni Giudica Cordelia's analysis of the Shroud of Turin provides additional details. He describes the man wrapped in the shroud as being about 6 feet tall, with a perfectly proportioned and harmonious physique. Despite the shroud's damage, the face appeared very soft and gentle, with a broad, straight forehead, a straight nose turned slightly downwards, and large, slightly protruding cheeks. Professor Cordiglia's anthropometric calculations suggest that Jesus had a cranial capacity of 1575 cc, placing him in the large-headed category with a brain weight of about 1492 grams, indicating extraordinary intelligence. Head of Christ. In 1940, commercial artist Warner Sallman created the oil painting Head of Christ, which has since become one of the most widely reproduced religious images ever. You can find Sallman's painting on countless items like prints, plaques, bookmarks, greeting cards, church bulletins, and even coffee mugs. According to Stephen Prothero, author of American Jesus, this widespread distribution transformed Jesus from a mere celebrity into a national icon, making him instantly recognizable to Americans of all races and religions. Prothero also notes that Sallman's image has become the most common religious depiction globally, surpassing even Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper and many other significant religious artworks. Head of Christ is both a significant object of personal devotion and a subject of scholarly study. In the 1990s, the Lilly Endowment funded a major research project to explore the impact of Sallman's artwork on religion in America. Art historian David Morgan led this study, compiling essays and conference papers into a book titled Icons of American Protestantism: The Art of Warner Sallman. During the research, Morgan collected over 500 personal responses to Sallman's painting. Many respondents expressed that they felt the image accurately represented what Jesus looked like. This belief is intriguing, considering that no one from the 1940s had witnessed Jesus in the 1st century to verify his appearance. Morgan suggests that the widespread appeal of Head of Christ and the claims of its authenticity are partly due to its photo-like qualities. The portrait's blurred contours and soft backlighting evoke the studio photographs of family members and loved ones, giving it a personal, keepsake-like feel. Additionally, the image's focus on Jesus from the shoulders up, without any surrounding context or other figures, allows viewers to place him into their own personal context. This absence of additional characters invites a more intimate and personal interaction with the image. The Jesus in Sallman's painting appears warm, gentle, and compassionate, embodying the idealized Savior that many people yearn for. Jesus Christ in the Bible. The Gospels and surviving archaeological evidence provide some hints about Jesus' clothing. He likely wore a simple woolen tunic, undyed, and leaving his lower legs bare, along with a possible loincloth and a mantle or outer cloak for warmth. His footwear would have resembled modern sandals, and given the high cost of clothing, Jesus probably did a lot of mending and repair. Over time, his clothes would have become more worn and tattered unless someone provided him with new garments. The Bible offers few details about Jesus' physical appearance. The primary sources of information about him come from the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the New Testament. These texts tell us that Jesus was a Jewish man born in Bethlehem and raised in Nazareth in Galilee during the 1st century. He was around 30 years old when he began his ministry, Luke 3:23. However, the Bible provides little information about his looks, noting that he did not stand out in any particular way. For instance, during Jesus' arrest in the Garden of Gethsemane, Judas Iscariot had to identify him to the soldiers because Jesus and his disciples likely looked similar to each other. For many scholars, Revelation 1:14-15 provides a hint that Jesus might have had a darker skin tone and woolly hair. The passage describes his hair as white wool, white as snow, and his feet as like burnished bronze, refined as in a furnace. Over the centuries, depictions of Jesus have changed significantly. In early Christian art, Jesus was often portrayed as a youthful, beardless figure, symbolizing innocence and a caring nature, reflecting his role as the Good Shepherd. This imagery, found in the catacombs of Rome and early Christian mosaics, emphasized his approachable and nurturing qualities. Some of the earliest known artistic representations of Jesus date back to the mid-3rd century AD, over 2 centuries after his death. These early paintings, discovered in the ancient catacombs of St. Domitilla in Rome, depict Jesus as the Good Shepherd, a young, short-haired, beardless man with a lamb on his shoulders, reflecting the prevalent image of Jesus at that time. In 2018, a rare early portrait of Jesus was uncovered on the walls of a ruined church in southern Israel. Painted in the 6th century AD, this is the earliest known image of Jesus found in Israel. It depicts him with shorter, curly hair, a style common in the Eastern Byzantine Empire, particularly in Egypt and the Syria-Palestine region, though it later fell out of favor in Byzantine art. The long-haired, bearded image of Jesus that became prominent starting in the 4th century was heavily influenced by representations of Greek and Roman gods, especially Zeus. This new depiction often showed Jesus in a long robe, seated on a throne, as seen in the 5th century mosaic at the Santa Pudenziana Church in Rome, sometimes with a halo around his head. However, not all images of Jesus fit the Western art tradition. Different cultures around the world have depicted him in ways that reflect their own racial and cultural identities. Among the many relics associated with Jesus, the Shroud of Turin, which appeared in 1354, is one of the most famous. Believers claim that this linen cloth, which bears a faint image of a face, was used to wrap Jesus after his crucifixion. Despite ongoing controversy over its authenticity, it remains an important reference for depicting Jesus. In 2001, retired medical artist Richard Neve, along with Israeli and British forensic anthropologists and computer programmers, created a new image of Jesus based on a 1st century Israeli skull. Using computer modeling and their knowledge of Jewish people from that time, they produced an image that is not claimed to be an exact likeness of Jesus, but offers a plausible representation. This reconstruction suggests that Jesus was around 5'1", tall, with darker skin, dark eyes, and shorter, curlier hair. While Western depictions of Jesus are most common, other cultures often represent him as Black, Arab, or Hispanic. This diversity reflects the global variation in how different cultures envision Jesus. The question of what Jesus actually looked like remains open, but forensic anthropology, a field that uses techniques similar to those used in criminal investigations, has provided one of the most scientifically grounded reconstructions of his appearance to date. Forensic anthropology, an extension of physical anthropology, combines cultural and archaeological data with physical and biological sciences to study various groups of people. Specialists in this field need a deep understanding of genetics, human growth, and development. They also draw from related disciplines such as primatology, paleoanthropology, the study of primate and human evolution, and human osteology, the study of the skeleton. Even fields like nutrition, dentistry, and climate adaptation contribute to their research. Though forensic anthropology is typically used in criminal investigations, Richard Neve applied its principles to reconstruct the appearance of Jesus. Neve, who had previously reconstructed the faces of historical figures like Philip II of Macedonia and King Midas of Phrygia, was well equipped to tackle this challenging project. His expertise made him a strong candidate for creating a scientifically grounded portrait of Jesus. Matthew's account of the events in Gethsemane suggests that Jesus' appearance was typical of Galilean Semites of his time. To accurately reconstruct his features, Richard Neve and his team started by obtaining skulls from near Jerusalem, the region where Jesus lived and preached. Israeli archaeologists provided 3 well-preserved Semite skulls from the relevant period. Neve's team used computerized tomography, CT, to create detailed X-ray slices of these skulls, revealing intricate structural details. They then employed specialized computer programs to analyze data on the thickness of soft tissue at key facial areas. This analysis allowed them to recreate the muscles and skin over a representative Semite skull. The process involved software that cross-checked the results with anthropological data to ensure accuracy. From the data collected, the researchers created a digital 3D reconstruction of Jesus' face. They then made a physical cast of the skull and applied layers of clay to simulate the thickness of facial tissues specified by the computer program. They shaped the nose, lips, and eyelids based on the underlying muscle structure. However, the skull did not provide information about Jesus' hair or skin color. To address these aspects, Neve's team examined drawings from first-century archaeological sites. These pre-biblical images offered important clues, suggesting that Jesus had dark eyes rather than light. They also indicated that, in accordance with Jewish tradition, he was bearded. The question of Jesus' hair length was clarified by biblical scholars who believe that, despite common depictions of him with long hair, it was likely short and curly. This assumption, however, contradicted what many believe to be the most authentic depiction: the face seen in the image on the famous, some say infamous, Shroud of Turin. The shroud is believed by many to be the cloth in which Jesus' body was wrapped after his death. Although there is a difference of opinion as to whether the shroud is genuine, it clearly depicts a figure with long hair. Those who criticize the shroud's legitimacy point to 1 Corinthians, one of the many New Testament books the Apostle Paul is credited with writing. In one chapter, he mentions having seen Jesus, then later describes long hair on a man as disgraceful. Would Paul have written, "If a man has long hair, it is a disgrace to him," if Jesus Christ had had long hair? For Neve and his team, this settled the issue. Jesus, as drawings from the first century depict, would have had short hair appropriate to men of the time. The historic record clarifies the issue of Jesus' height as well. Archaeological analysis shows that the average Semite male during Jesus' time was about 5'1" tall and weighed around 110 lbs. Given Jesus' occupation as a carpenter and his outdoor work until the age of 30, it's likely he was more muscular and physically fit than the typical Western portrayals suggest. His face would have been weather-beaten, making him appear older. For those familiar with traditional Sunday school images of Jesus, Neve's reconstruction, a dark-skinned, robust Middle Eastern man, offers a stark contrast. Neve emphasizes that his recreation reflects the appearance of an adult man from Jesus' time and place, not Jesus himself. This portrayal has sparked some disagreement, as not everyone accepts it as an accurate representation. In her 2018 book, What Did Jesus Look Like?, Taylor used archaeological remains, historical texts, and ancient Egyptian funerary art to conclude that Jesus most likely had brown eyes, dark brown to black hair, and olive brown skin, reflecting the typical appearance of people in Judea and Egypt during that era. She estimated Jesus' height at about 160 centimeters, around 5'05", which was the average height for men at the time. Taylor acknowledges that while these newer depictions, featuring darker, perhaps curlier hair and darker skin, might be closer to the historical truth, we can never be absolutely certain about Jesus' exact appearance. She poses the question, what did Jewish Galileans look like 2,000 years ago? Suggesting that they probably did not have blue eyes and blonde hair, challenging traditional Western portrayals. Another perspective comes from an artificial intelligence program, which offers a modern twist on the age-old debate about Jesus' appearance. While Renaissance painters and the Catholic Church have traditionally depicted Jesus as a tall, muscular figure with flowing blonde hair and blue eyes, most historians suggest that a carpenter's son from first-century Palestine would have looked quite different. According to historical consensus, Jesus would have had a shorter, stockier build with curly black hair, reflecting the physical traits of the local population at that time. The debate on Jesus' appearance took a new turn with the help of advanced technology. Dutch photographer and digital artist Mr. Uter used artificial intelligence to tackle the long-standing mystery. With his background in computer-generated images and special effects, Uter employed AI software that utilizes a neural network trained on thousands of human faces. This technology allows him to combine various depictions of Jesus, including Byzantine and Renaissance artworks like Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi and the Shroud of Turin, while adjusting the features to reflect a more authentic Middle Eastern appearance. This method synthesizes multiple sources to create a historically and culturally plausible representation of Jesus. He added, "I was happy with the result as a representation of a collective cultural depiction, but at the same time, I felt it lacked any historical accuracy. So I changed the hair and beard to a more credible length and style for the time and region, and I brought in elements found in some Fayum mummy portraits, pushing the Renaissance art to the background. The result
whispers fade into the street, lonely echoes we repeat, lost in shadows where we meet. Voices soft like velvet air, secrets floating everywhere. Feel your heartbeat like a prayer, two souls tangled in despair. In the shadows we fade. Pieces of a shattered mind that search but never see. You and I eternally dancing in this revelry, chained to our own memory. Lights are dim, the world is hushed. Every touch a gentle rush. Darkness wraps us in its clutch. In this dream we both are. But for now we find no seas, lost in shadows, finding no peace. In the shadows we fade. In the shadows we break. In the shadows we find pieces of a shattered mind. gentle rush. Darkness wraps us in its clutch. In this dream we both are free. Any dawn will bring release from this haunting, bittersweet peace. But for now we find no cease, lost in shadows, finding no peace.
Is an artistic impression of how this man could have looked more than it is a scientific search for an exact likeness. Why aren't there pictures of Jesus from his lifetime? Jesus changed the world through his ministry and message. People were martyred and died because they believed in him, but we have no physical record of what Jesus looked like. Carvings, statues, and mosaics of military leaders like Caesar and average people from the 1st century have been found. Why didn't early Christians create pictures or statues in Christ's honor? In Jesus' time, people followed Jewish laws which were based on the Old Testament. One important rule was to avoid making or worshiping images or idols. When God gave the 10 Commandments, he made it clear that people should not create or bow down to any carved images, whether they looked like animals, people, or anything else. After freeing the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, God wanted to make sure they didn't fall into old habits of idol worship, like the Egyptians did. The command was strict: don't make any images or statues of gods, and don't worship them. This was so serious that God warned it would affect future generations if they disobeyed. As the Israelites were about to enter the Promised Land, God reminded them once more to avoid making any kind of idol. This included images of humans, animals, birds, or fish. The goal was to keep their faith pure and avoid corruption by not turning to false gods or idols. You might wonder, why do we have pictures of Jesus if early Christians didn't create images? You may have grown up with stained glass images of Christ, icons or statues in the sanctuary, or pictures of Jesus in your children's Bible. These are evidence of the artist's imagination. One of the oldest pictures of Jesus dates from 235 years after the resurrection. This picture of Jesus healing the paralytic was found in Syria on a wall in the Dura Europos Church, one of the oldest Christian churches in the world. Another ancient picture of Jesus as a beardless young man as a shepherd was found in the Roman catacombs. By 400 CE, artists were depicting Jesus with a beard. In the early church, art played a key role in teaching people about the Bible, especially since many believers couldn't read. Paintings and sculptures helped them remember the stories of Jesus. Art was already a big part of Roman culture, so early Christians used it to express their faith. The influence of Roman, Greek, and Syrian art shaped how Jesus was depicted. For example, if you look at Rembrandt's paintings of Jesus from the 1600s and compare them to medieval drawings from the 10th century, you'll see how different they are. The artist's own time and culture influenced how they portrayed Jesus. Everything from his clothes to his hairstyle changed based on who was painting him and when. So, what does all this mean for us today? When we realize that there are no pictures or statues of Jesus from his lifetime, it reminds us that God cares more about what's inside a person than their outward appearance. Just like when God told the prophet Samuel not to choose Saul as king because Saul looked the part but didn't have the right heart. God told Samuel, "Don't look at his appearance or how tall he is. I've rejected him. People see the outside, but God looks at the heart." This teaches us not to judge people by how they look. Jesus also told his followers, "Don't judge by appearances, make fair judgments." It's interesting that none of the books written by Jesus' disciples, Matthew, Mark, Peter, and John, describe what Jesus looked like. Instead, they focus on his teachings and his heart, showing us that it's his message and character that truly matter. When we feel ordinary or are judged for our appearance, it's important to remember that Jesus was ordinary too. He wasn't known for being good-looking or impressive. People mocked him and treated him poorly. Often, people judge others based on looks, but that's not how Christians should measure worth. Our value doesn't come from how we look or how popular we are. It comes from God's love because he created everyone in his image. It might be easier to imagine someone with a dazzling appearance than to think of Jesus as an average person from Galilee. But whether we imagine him as radiant or humble, what matters is that we know he is our Savior. We don't need a perfect picture of his appearance to experience his love and atonement in our lives. And we don't need to see him now to recognize him as our dear brother when we meet him again. No matter how curious we are about Jesus, all of us who believe in him can be sure of one thing. At the end of our lives, we will meet Jesus face to face. In the heavenly sanctuary, beyond time and space, he will welcome us, and we will finally see him as he truly is.